Hey guys, it's Dreamforce here. You know they say that every time you pick Hanzo in ranked, God kills a Kirin? Well, this is Foreign's channel. And every time you pick Hanzo in ranked, Foreign kills a Seagull.
Right, this is going to be another one of my donated discussions, and we've got a new person joining the chat here, Emanuel here. What do you, I named you that in the outro anyway, so I guess it's fine to say your name. What about this? It's not actually Fight Club, mate. You don't have to fight on your first night and all that sort of shit, but it is fun if the person who's joining comes in with a topic that they're interested in or something they want to start off with, because obviously we've done a bunch of these. We just come up with them on the spot. So did you have any kind of burning desire to talk about a specific topic?
I might have actually. I I watched a lot of your videos before, and
right.
I always liked when you talked about the what ifs of roster moves in CS and stuff.
Hypotheticals are the best.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about. Like when you did reflection interviews with JW, for example, and you talked about where he might have gone during 2015 before they won all the majors.
The only thing I will say is I think you did submit a Patreon AMA question like that. So
yeah, I might have done that. Actually.
Yeah, I'll save that one for the AMA. But if you want to do another one, like here's a fun angle people don't know. I actually did years and years ago. Just like people know that one from the interview, I once did an article which was based on another real what if, which is that when the guys who are now Astralis used to be called Dignitas and they played under Fetish instead of Glaive or Kerrigan, at the end of that year, when Nip was going to change out, I think it was when they were going to change out Fiflaren, they actually asked Device to join. Because remember, Fiflaren was like an AWPer, in theory. I mean, he couldn't fucking land the shots half the time. He was definitely buying it and trying to shoot left click it, right? So in theory, betting Device at the time seemed perfect because he was a sick rifler. He was more of a hybrid back then. And he was an AWPer. So I actually did a text article on it. You can look it up. It's like, what if, Device had joined NIP or whatever? And I take the whole angle. Like, what people don't know is there are tons of those. It's just most of them either are like an obscure piece of trivia in an interview, or they're literally just not public. People don't know about them at all. So some of them are really crazy. Like, I mean, like one you can probably guess is a fucking billion people could have joined FaZe Clan over the years.
Yeah.
Some really big names. Like I'm not exaggerating. I heard that like fucking Shocks and Glaive and some of these players, like, even when they were really good, were getting offers to join. It's just that they just chose not to. So there's like a million angles you can go with on that one. So do you know any other ones that are famous that I haven't maybe addressed?
I don't know if it's actually a famous one, but wasn't there a team before everything basically went to shit with Existence that was supposed to have Kenyas and Shocks on the same team?
I've never actually heard that one because
I might have just made it up.
No. The problem with that scenario is that that's actually one of the biggest mysteries of the French scene that none of them have ever explained, which is why did they just constantly replace each other? Now, I sort of know it's nearly always that Shocks has like this element to his personality where he's a troublemaker. Like basically he gets bored of stuff, or he just, like, for example, the first time he left the Very Games team when it was Titan, they were literally the number one team in the world, but they bombed a couple of events. Now, here's the saddest thing. This is a what if for you, mate. Right? Bearing in mind, that was when they just become the first big team to move into a gaming house. And the whole problem is people claim the reason they bombed the major is that Existence, because they had them in a gaming house, just worked these guys to death. And like they literally had figured out like 50 million fucking flow charts for every map. And so basically the problem is if someone makes you put in that much work, if you don't win, someone's going to break. And so like that's the thing people don't get about Astralis. Go look at when Astralis was in that Blastralis period where they weren't winning. Guess what? It's not fun to fucking practice loads, do all the most boring strats in the world, and then lose to fucking Furia. That's why they were just smashing desks and stuff. Like, they were really fucking tilted. So in the same sense, right, what happened was they bombed the major, and then the next tournament, which was their chance to bounce back, was the Copenhagen Games, right? And even worse than bombing it, they went out in the quarterfinals to a fellow French team, which was the LDLC team. But this was when it was like Happy, fucking Apex, Kaylee, Maniac, and Uzi was this team, right? So actually this team at the time, by the way, Kaylee and them weren't famous players. So this team was like, there should be no way they could ever beat Titan, because Titan was like the super team of the French-Belgian region. So when they lost that match to Shocks, it was like, right, well, fuck this. I'm not staying in a team house. I've got a girlfriend now as well. Plus, like, this guy's working me to death. I'd rather just go and play and make my own fun team, you know. Now, here's the sick thing. The what if, obviously, is like, you don't need a what if the results are real, because you didn't do well enough in the tournament, so the project didn't work. But this is what people don't know. I've gone back and watched all those games with a critical eye, and I'm going to make some content on this in the future. I've actually flipped. I actually believe Kaylee was cheating in those matches. Like in the specific match I'm talking about, there's a round where like Titan's up like 14-13 on like CT side of train. And this is the old train, by the way. It was super CT sided. And Kaylee, it literally looks like he's been playing the most of the game just normal. And it looks like he just uses like a trigger bot or something and just kills 2 people with outrageous headshots with an AK. So like, that's basically the story of what the people who later, when he got VAC banned, said, is that some of them who played with him, most of them basically now do believe he did cheat, but they believe he cheated like that. He wasn't like blatant. In fact, at the major, it looked like he didn't even use them. He was actually quite bad. But in this tournament, it looked like he thought in that moment, like, I can get away with it on this one. And listen, it's not like they won the tournament. They went out in the next round themselves. So it's not like he was totally stupid with how he used it. But that's the what if. Because if someone had to cheat to actually beat you, what if they hadn't? What if you'd have won that match? What if you'd have gotten to play Nip or Virtus Pro or something? What if that's the bounce back? Because that was basically the team that, even though France had great teams afterwards, they never had a team that was like that. That was like sort of the French Astralis. It had it had all the star players, it had all the role players. Everyone was the best at their role. Even on a mad angle, everyone was mad good looking in the team. Like it would have been the most perfect team to be the major winner ever. Like we would have like been able to market this team so well. Not least because if you don't know this, I don't know how old school you are, but like NBK wasn't some like bearded hobo like he is now.
No. He like had a baby face. You could market this guy as like a pop star guy.
So that's the what if to me, because now that I know that detail, I can't say I know it, I think it. It makes me think, like, what if this fucker just didn't cheat that game? What if it was just a legit match?
Yeah,
they're the fun ones.
It's so crazy to think about.
Like there are certain examples of him, like back in the day when like you could see clips pop up and it's like people suspected him in certain matches and it's like, this does look like iffy, but like the rest of the match you just like, you think it's luck at that point in time.
Sure.
The way it like comes across. Cause like the one pop headshot where he pumps up on Dust 2 with the like.
Yeah, the major, yeah, sure, go on.
It's like, what the fuck was that?
It's also because back then people didn't try those shots, whereas the funny thing is...
That's true.
Because he did that, people then did start trying those shots. So in some ways, by the way, cheers. Like, yeah, thanks for that. Like, you actually did, in some way, elevate
inspire people.
I always say that, you know, like the mad thing about the fact that Simple and some of those other players managed to do those jumping AWP shots is the AWP is less accurate when you jump in no scope in CSGO. So in CS 1.6, we could have done that. Just nobody thought to do it because they thought, well, why would I waste this shot? Why don't I just peek around the corner on him, you know?
Yeah.
It's so crazy that people like still attempted those and like it paid off in a certain respect of time.
Yeah. That's
and we
why
got some sick track movies out of it.
That's why the story that called Zera, when he did the jumping no scope, if you've never watched it, in the Fallen and Dead reflections I do, they basically both recount their version of what happened. And that people don't understand how crazy that shot is because people are such stupid fans. They just believe if you won, you were just better and you were always going to win. And the team that lost, they're all chokers. It's like, mate, they should have literally won the game on that round. Like that would have won them the map. Like, and the story is mental because basically Fallen's version goes like this. Apparently they just said, because they thought they'd lost the game, which is the opening map, they just said, fuck it, just do whatever you want. And if people don't know, it was like a glass cannon AWP as well. He wasn't even like a real... Like,
he didn't have armor.
As a result, he just said something like, just do whatever the fuck you want, do something crazy. Because it's like, the idea is like, we're frustrated, like, go to the next map. Then, this is the part no one remembers. This is what's so sick when you get these details in interviews. Dead, I think it was, said that the most ridiculous part that you forget is, remember... Since most people, I think, on his team were alive at that time, none of them saw what he did. Like, they thought he just AWP'd people normally. And so supposedly, at the end of the round, when he just did all those shots, he just turned to them and just said, like, you're not going to fucking believe what I just did. Like, it's ridiculous. So, but they didn't know that. They were still playing the game.
I don't think I could be able to play after that, to be honest. to do that and then, like, in a major as well.
I think only one person was dead. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it wasn't it Taco playing B-side with him, and he got traded by a Heek or something, and then
yeah, it could be. It's like amazing how that how it was done, like cream de la creme.
Sure, but there's a what if for you right there, mate. Because remember, listen,
if that was a cheat, oh my.
You can't really say that they would, you know, that the next map would have gone the same because almost inevitably every round does sort of change the outcome of the next rounds and how you'd play it and how you model it and stuff. But if they win that first map, people forget the second map was the one where they were also up at like 15-9 or whatever it was, something mental, might even be more. And that was the one where it was on cash, and they were shitting on the fucking Luminosity guys. Like Hiko had some mental score like 29-1 on CT side. Sadly, he went to shit on the T side. So here's the thing, right? It's totally different if I'm up a map and I get in a scenario like that. In that scenario, yeah, you might start winning rounds, but I can not only win this map, I have no pressure. I can win the third map as well. Yeah. I think part of the reason they really collapsed on that map is because they knew, oh, fuck, we need to win this one to even the series. And then when you get to the pressure moment, it's the other team that has no pressure on them. Like, one of the most underrated qualities in the game, I'll probably make a video on this, is you have to be able to use like the score against your opponent. It's what I think Astralis is probably also the best in the scene at, is they don't go for these bonkers fucking stupid ass lurks on like round 3. They go for that when they're up like 13-6 and it's a round where you've strung together 3 rounds in a row, and if you win this round, which you should because they're on a half buy, then you're going to be like fully in control of your economy and you're rolling back in, and that's when they do the stupid bullshit gamble. Because
and if you lose it, you tilt.
It's also not the end of the game, is it? You know, you're still up 13-7 at that point in time and they can win. But they know if you lose that round, your entire mental's fucking boomed because you're already thinking past it. Like, right, we're going to get this round, then we're going to the next one. That's the genius of it. So there's definitely an element of that in matches like that. Like, I even think that if you want to contrast that, I'll fully credit when Astralis won their first major. If you want to do the whole should thing, yeah, on paper, Virtus.pro should have won that 2-0. Because if you remember, like the Nuke game was close, but they won it. And then the Overpass game, like 3/4 of the way through it, Xypnix has to win that mental 1v3, otherwise it's basically almost game over. And that was the one where Device was choking like a motherfucker on that.
Yeah, couldn't get a fucking kill for his life.
Like, there's a world in which VP, if that 1v3 doesn't happen, they just close it out 2-0 and it's just game over. Kind of like they did at the next tournament, the DreamHack Vegas, where like the key thing was at the time, Astralis wasn't that mentally strong.
And Virtus.pro was the plow.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. They also, their entire game was intimidation, you know.
They were so good back then.
Yeah.
I missed that Virtus.pro.
Yeah.
It was so exciting to watch.
It's like once the plow started rolling, it's like plow.
Yeah, exactly. The rivalries between VP Astralis and then FaZe when they got Nico.
And it was still good at the time.
A lot of people don't know this, right? But part of the whole reason that they could do that shit, by the way, is because they were delusional. Literally. Like, anytime they were at like a top 5 level, they believed they were the best team, by the way. And I'm not talking about they just say it like a fucking American would, like, yeah, bro, I'm going to win. Like, I just played to win. Like, I'm a winner. It's like, no, they weren't just saying the words. Like, you have to realize they were insanely fucking tilted after that major. Because in their minds, like this is a good and a bad thing. It's also why I think they all got really stubborn towards the end and ruined their careers. Like, they never thought they should ever lose a fucking tournament. That's why in 1.6 they used to literally fist fight. Not every time, but sometimes.
Sometimes.
Because the idea was, if we lost, someone fucked up, and whoever made the mistake, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, they used to have insane arguments in person. So, like, the good and the bad of that is, like, in life, I do think it can be good to be stubborn. Like, if it doesn't make sense what someone's saying, why the fuck would you go along with it? That's the road to nowhere. You're just going to be rudderless at that point in time. But at the same time, they were just a little bit too delusional, you know? Like, they really believed, like, every strat should work, every kill should work. And I used to say to them, like, how the fuck can you complain about people doing weird pushes and getting kills they shouldn't get when you've got fucking Pasha on your team? Like, he looks like he's a fucking DMG. What are you talking about? Like how's he out open falling or whatever? They didn't used to like that, believe it or not, when I told them that.
And they still, like, believed they should have won that major despite losing certain rounds.
Like,
they
when
probably should have, but, like, who cares?
When
like, they really think they were robbed of, like, the second major of their careers.
Yeah, they like the world would be so different if they would have won that major, though.
Oh, no doubt.
Sure. I even think it might have been a good thing for Astralis, by the way, because they might have changed their lineup sooner, and they might have already got to the better one that they got later before.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think they would have gotten Magiski even?
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, people know now because Zonic mentioned it in his biography, but it was always a known secret with the people who are actually in the know. This is how you know, by the way, that I'm just going to drop a spoiler for you right now, mate. People who are like HLTV journalists, they don't know almost anything that's going on in the scene. That's not even a joke. They know a few things behind the scenes, and that's usually when other journalists and other people who are like industry figures just tell them, like, they're not friends with all the pros and getting all the info. If they are, they publish it. So anything they're not publishing, typically they don't know. So as a result, like, I've never heard anyone mention it until that book came out. But at the time, Magisk wasn't even their first choice. Config was. Because Config, remember, was tearing it up in North. That was when he was taking that North team to like finals of tournaments when they had no business being outside of like semis, you know. So at the time, you looked at the team they had. Remember, Kirby, when he'd been in their team and played like an entry role, they were just going to bring Config in, who was a complete banger at the time and a secondary AWPer. And they thought that was the lineup that was going to roll. But the problem is, as you might know if you followed his career, Config has like sort of a bit of a screw loose. Like he's not really like an Astralis type player in that sense, you know. So I think it could have worked. It could have been amazing. You never know how you'll adapt someone, because obviously Magisk wasn't thought of as an Astralis type player. But I actually don't think. I think if they'd have done it earlier, then Config just wouldn't have done whatever stupid shit he did in the interview. He just played in the team. I'm not sure why he did that whole angle. I have no idea. It's one of the weirdest. It's got to be the biggest like fuck up in an interview I've ever heard of in CS, at least.
But you compared like Config and Magisk to Fur and Coltera when they won that epicenter in Dignitas.
Yeah,
and I think that really describes it perfectly, because like Magisk is that type of more slow, methodical player, but Config is very aggressive, very aggressive.
And obviously you can see why it was a sick duo. There's the other thing that's totally brutal. That's why I always say as well, it's almost like Astralis cheated, because like, you could, all right, you have Device and Dupree, okay, fair enough. In theory, if you want another player that's like that, you're supposed to replace one of them. You don't just get to have Magisk as well. Like, the whole thing is, if you're MSL, what the fuck, at least I had Config and Magisk, I had something. So it's like you just got to keep cheating. Like in some ways, it's probably a good thing that they've had to do all these whack moves now, because there's all sorts of shit going on behind the scenes. Because if they could have known this, like basically, here's another mad statement for you, because obviously, listen, every major is really hard to win, but there's a world in which I genuinely believe if they didn't win that Berlin major, I believe they would have made a roster move. And you know the obvious player they would have gotten? Well, Valde hadn't joined OG yet, mate.
True.
And that would have been the move. And I tell you what, if you get Valde, then they'd have done it again. So the difference is, you know what, you give up one major, which isn't, again, nobody's guaranteed any majors. But the difference is, you put Valde in at the right time, like maybe Dupree decides to retire or something.
Ooh.
That might be just the team that wins the next 2 or 3 majors. Like, that could be the next fucking level up again, you know. Which no one's basically done in CS, if you notice. Typically, when you get to the top, you're never the dominant team again. You can be good again. You can briefly be number one. But the idea you could do it like 2 or 3 times, that's impossible, seemingly. But they could have done it.
Most of them stay too long and then, retire a meaningless piece of career.
It's the reason why, to just bring it onto something topical at the moment, I've got some content on this coming up. So everyone obviously is flaming Olofmeister and FaZe Clan, right? And if you're a fan, you might think to yourself, that is fucked up. How can Nico ever talk shit on other players and think they're not good enough to join FaZe Clan, and then turn around and watch the corpse of Olofmeister bottom fragging and go, this is fine, this is cool. But you have to realise, when you've played at the level Olofmeister did, anyone who plays with him has it burned into his brain, all the shit he did in the past, right? Mm-hmm. So even if he's playing bad now, they're like, he'll get it together. And then if he has one little flashback,
it's there.
It's like Forrest. He's back again. He's the best again, guys. Look at his aim. It's like, mate, let's just wait for next round, shall we? Like, you know, like, or next map. Like, you know, this thing has a way of regressing to the mean. So
actually, like an accurate like description of Twitch chat.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's why you do. You know the other thing as well. You know the Score Esports, where the joke is they basically did just fucking cannibalize all of our content and just make their own secondhand version of our content. And the way you know it is because they don't know the fucking scene enough to know what memes are.
You like, call it secondhand?
They made a video recently on Alu, right? And they called it the best, worst AWPer ever. It's like, he wasn't, you idiot. That was a fucking Twitch chat meme. He was actually a pretty consistent AWPer. He was never the best. He was probably just like the 4th best. And he was just a good player. He just had a weird personality. Like, that's not real, you know? Like, holy shit, they were making it sound like he was like the Finnish Draken or something. Like, they totally misunderstood the whole narrative.
No way in hell they call him the Finnish Draken. No way.
No, but essentially they made it seem like he was, basically. That was kind of like almost.
That's pretty absurd. Like,
it is.
That's not secondhand content. I call that tier free, my friend.
No, it's made up, isn't it? Exactly. Yeah, it's just nonsense, isn't it?
They also made it.
Yeah, go on.
No, they made a video as well about the Cloud9 team from 2015, where like in the intro they say that this lineup shouldn't have worked.
What the fuck?
When they literally have an entry fragger, a positional offer. Yeah, they had
a really good team.
The perfect setup.
They had Freakazoid going in like a beast every fucking round because he did
Shroud behind him.
Job.
Yeah, you know the joke of that team, by the way, is I've actually got some content I'm going to do on this. It's just in the note form at the moment. Is the whole thing is that was where NA sort of went dark, is because that team didn't win a major and it didn't win ultimately. Then they just thought, why have we got shitters like this Freakazoid and fucking nothing else? To get them out, like get in the fraggers. Whereas, as you see, unless you really do hit that team liquid like summer peak last year, you're just wasting the fraggers. Like Nitro's just a waste of fucking time in this team. And because I've heard their comms, mate, he's not saying shit. So he is just a bad fragger in their team. Like he's not some sick and give. Like, he's not doing any of that stuff. So as a result, like. I actually, to some way, even though I enjoy that style, that FaZe Clan style, if you can win with it, it looks sick.
Yeah.
I would have preferred the Sean Gares approach. And the Sean Gares approach was always you recruit people who make sense, like the roles make sense,
exactly.
I can rely on this guy. Like you don't, I always say with that sort of team, you don't need to have too much, you just need to have enough skill. And once you've got enough skill, the rest of it all kicks in. Yeah, that's a good example of another fucking video like that.
Yeah.
Funny thing is though, I can tell you, this just does make me realise it's not even necessarily their fault, because you have to remember the Score Esports obviously is like an offshoot of the Score, which is like a fucking
aren't they broke?
Site. Probably. Well, basically, if you know anything about how they do like big media sports documentary type things anyway on YouTube, they're all like that, mate. It's some guy who wasn't probably even there looking up the old clips and then just constructed a story. And he's just doing shit like reading newspaper clippings and just saying it as though it's fact. Like, you know, before this game, Michael Jordan wanted to do. It's like, how the fuck do you know, mate? Is he not allowed to lie? Like, how do you know that? You speculate like a motherfucker. What?
This sounds more like speculation from HLTV than actual reporting.
On some level, sure. That's a lot of fan bases in general, isn't it?
Jesus.
But if we bring it back to Config, I had one more question about him.
All right.
Do you think he would work better under Glaive or under Kerrigan?
I mean, the obvious one is Kerrigan to me. Yeah, but the problem is, like I say, here's the thing. The reason you could still make him work in Astralis is sometimes one of the ways that you can make a team really awesome is just balance. In the same way as Megas can him with perfect in that sense, because they're not going to step on each other's toes at all. So if I put him in Astralis, I'm just going to make him the hard entry, and we're just going to let him go free and do his shit, and we're going to team play around him, as it were. Not with him, around him. Yeah. Now, if you put him in a Kerrigan team, here's the reason why I'd love to see that. I've said it before. At least up to the point they all played with Kerrigan, almost every player, obviously Olaf Meister is an example because he was washed at that time, almost every player plays at their peak for their career or gets back there. Guardian even got back there. You think that's a coincidence? This guy, Kerrigan, is a fucking genius at knowing how to put his stars in the right spots. So if you'd have given him config, he could have made him, I won't say best player in the world, because you never know if someone can get that low. Yeah. Could have been like the 5th best player in the world, and they could have won championship. I believe that. Like, I've seen enough with his mouse swap team. He's got like, it's funny, when you get the results, every fan thinks backwards. So everyone now thinks this mouse swap lineup's sick. I think it mad overperforms even still. Like, this team has no business being in the final. Look at them, like half of them are nobodies like 6 months, 9 months ago. Or at least they weren't like vaguely top players
like,
at their role.
Voxic is too inconsistent normally.
That's why the real mad story is, and I was told this by someone who was in the North organization, supposedly North was one of the only teams that said no to Kerrigan when he was available after FaZe.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Now imagine that world, right, where he comes in and he has Valde, and if he wants, he can have Cajun B back, and if he wants AZ, he can keep him, or he can get, like any Kirby. Maybe he picks up some of the trick players. Like, this guy could have made a real Danish team that was just going straight at fucking Astralis' head. And if everyone's seen that content piece I did, this guy has a fabulous record against Astralis and former teams. Dead. It'd be so sick to watch. That would be the sort of like, even if they weren't as good as Astralis, they'd be like the ultimate dark horse to them, wouldn't they?
Even if you give them like the Mad Lions lineup, if you think about it, like currently, he could stomp them probably.
It'd certainly be interesting because he's just such a unique IGL, So yeah, I think that would personally, I would prefer that pairing. Yeah, Config and him.
It's Kerrigan is so exciting to watch. I watched so many demos trying to analyze, like, does he have, like, with different teams, does he set up in the same way? But everything is different every time.
Yeah.
I can't see any, like, resemblance. It's just raw. He doesn't have any structure, it seems like.
He does, but the clever thing is, like, I don't know if... do you ever follow tennis, mate?
No.
Right, I'll tell you this premise. You don't really need to follow it. If you'd have followed it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One of the actual things that makes Roger Federer probably the best, like, actual overall server in the history of tennis is he doesn't have anywhere close to the hardest shot. He has a pretty good shot. You know, let's say he has like 80% of the hard shot. But the best thing is he has two qualities. One is he has the best placement simultaneous to every different serve he does. He makes the throw up of the ball identical. So you can't tell based on it where he's going to hit it. Now, that sounds like everyone should do that, right? Almost no one can do that, mate. Like, the whole thing is everyone else has a tell. But the idea is if you're a really hard hitter, or even if you know where it's going, you might just blast it past you anyway. If you're one that's not doing that anyway, maybe you're just trying to get the ball in anyway. So it doesn't matter if the guy gets, there's a million different ways to do it. But the point is, in that scenario, that's what Kerrigan's doing with his strats. Like, it's true, he's not doing super in-depth strats because you couldn't just flip them like that. But he's doing strats where it's like... I've got a strats where we end up on any of the sites and in any combination, but I've got 5 openings to each one, and they all look the same. So basically, not only do I have the option, by the way, to switch up mid-strat which end point we get. So basically in Swedish Counter-Strike, actually, they're the ones who invented this terminology in Counter-Strike. The initial thing you do, you don't call a strat from spawn. Astralis might do that sometimes. What you do is, it's just called a base. It's where you go at the beginning of the round, how you set up and what the first utility is. Kerrigan basically has bases that all look like it's the same strat you think you saw earlier, but he's going to lead to somewhere else. And so that's what makes it so tough to play against him. And then, since he's fucking god tier at using his stars, sometimes even if he gets right, the guy just shoots you in the fucking head. So, yeah, it makes it feel like you don't know what he's doing. That's why in the plus you've got to realise, in the FaZe Clan team, he did just push that to the extreme because then he had all the big names, didn't he? So now he didn't even have to set up one guy and then have the rest of the team play around. It's like everyone could frag out. So I agree, in that team, it did look way less structured. And that probably was a demise, unfortunately. And then again, they were still 1 round from winning a major. It does change the whole storyline if that happens.
Yeah. I can't help but, like, Kerrigan is one of my favorite, like, people in the scene in general. He seems so, like, humble and...
He's one of the best guys to talk to that way. Like, he's the sort of guy where... I know everyone... Sadly, when everyone else uses that line, like, he's the type of guy I'd love to have a beer with, they just actually mean, I wish this fucking guy who's never met me is my best friend, which is like, I have to find that weird, personally. But he's the guy who you want to have a beer with, in the sense that you'd have a brilliant conversation. You can pick his brain. Yeah, exactly. You can totally understand, like, the analytical level. You can go all over the place. Like, I used to have some sick conversations with him, just trying to... when I say this, you'll understand why. We would just literally be theory crafting how they could fuck the map veto to beat SK next time and beat the Brazilians. Like, we were just scheming, like, and if we could get him on a cash at this point, like, it was fucking sick.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he had some, like, mental block or something against SK during...
Sure.
Was it 2018 or 2017?
17. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, that was when the super team of G2 also, like, the top 4 was basically interchangeable.
Yeah, it was awesome, right?
Yeah.
Great period.
Like, that was a classic period, yeah.
It's so, I love going back to those times, honestly.
Yeah, it's the shit. Zen, come on, mate. You must have a question now. Come on, you can't be silent all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on a couple of these teams. So what do you make of this latest qualifier where the top teams, basically only Astralis, went on the top of basically the top half of the group? So Navi, Mouse, who else? I mean, Liquid did okay, but not great. So a couple of these top teams, Fnatic also basically failed to...
It's online. What do you expect?
Is it just the online part? Is it just, well, now we don't even know if the major is going to happen, so who gives a shit? Like, how do you see these failures, let's say? Or is
I will say,
Astralis is the only team that can actually do this?
Even though most pros I know have told me that the ping difference is way less of a factor in CSGO, like, I assume maybe the netcodes are slightly better, whereas in 1.6 it was massive. At the same time, even in 1.6, people don't know this. Yeah, Sweden had the best connections in theory, right? But what people didn't know is Denmark had almost equally good, but just the location means they had even better position to every other country. Like, if I'm in Denmark and I play someone in Germany, it's right next door to me. If I play someone in France, it's closer than if I'm Swedish. If I play someone in fucking Russia, it's closer than... Like, there's almost... No one had a better location with equally good internet. So as a result, it was actually very famous that in 1.6, you would play an online season of Intel Extreme Masters to get to the World Championship, right? Or rather, the European Championship. Mm-hmm. Every season, no joke, 2 Danish teams, no matter what, made it. And that was sometimes when the second Danish team was the equivalent of what, like, Heroic would be now, by the way. Like, a team that shouldn't on paper make it, they'd always make it. because they had the fucking sick internet, they had the exact right location. So being Danish already means of all those teams, they had a mad advantage in that sense. Like I would guess Team Liquid's playing on way higher average ping with other Americans across all of America. I would guess Na'Vi. I mean, in their case, they were just playing CIS teams. So ping doesn't really matter. I think they just literally, that was bird strike, not wind strike. You know, that's just where a million fucking randoms just fly in the engine, you lose, you know. It's not real Counter-Strike. And then in terms of who's the other one? Oh, Mouse Sports. I just think Mouse Sports, like, listen, everyone's going to say it's nonsense. It's not the only factor, but they were one of the teams that used the Krieg like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
That hurts when you lose that.
Pros almost like Proland.
Because to me, the problem with the Krieg was, it wasn't that it's a bad gun. Like when people who were really good used it, it was awesome. But the problem is there was too many like sort of average players where you could just see them run around a corner, an entry, where if they have an AK, they don't kill that guy. Sometimes they kill the guy by accident with the Krieg. So if you were a team like Mouse, again, where you're playing a mixture of reactive and simple setups into like reading the game, that's the perfect team to have 3 or 4 Kriegs on.
Yeah.
You can brute force it.
Nice.
I do think the Na'Vi one is insanely underwhelming, though. That's just sad. But then again, I will say on that one, as much as I bag on the CIS minor, because it is just fucking garbage, and none of the teams ever do anything except the Vanguard now.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is people criminally underrate how skilled CIS players are. Because they don't get it. Their problem is they don't have the fundamentals. They haven't played under a Blade or a Zeus or something. They've just been playing they're the equivalent of if you had teams of just 5 FPL players trying to do basic tactics. So
they have people like Facecrack IGLing them. I mean...
Yeah, exactly. Like if you just took the raw skill of the players, a whole bunch of them could have been in Na'Vi and a whole bunch of these squads over the years.
During the Berlin Major, the team that beat EG, which was NRG at the time, I think, during the first round, like in the group stage or whatever, the first stage, they're now called Hard Legion. I feel like they at the major at least looked like a really good like tactical team, very structured.
Yeah, could well be. Well, that's the funny thing. That's what's so weird is you either get teams that have just got all the skills. Like I think the Team Spirit team that won, at least that's the right team to win if it's not Na'Vi.
Yeah.
Like they have fucking some mad fraggers in that team. The problem is you only get the teams like that. They're all super extreme like that, or they go the other way. So for example, like, I think Force is pretty tactical. I like that team actually, but I think their team doesn't have enough skill. Like I think some of the players are mad. Like I'm actually glad that. Like the reason I'm not glad that Na'Vi didn't get Flit is like I do think he's a better player than Perfecto, but even Flit's a mad underwhelming fucking pickup. Like what? Why are we getting this guy? Like so. That's the issue is you've got some tactical teams there, and then you've just got the teams that are just the fraggers. So it's just one of the weirdest regions in the whole world, to be honest.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why it always will be is you'll never have like 5 or 6 relevant teams from Russia, even though they could absolutely fund them in terms of like players. The problem is because American teams are never going to buy Russian players who don't speak English or limited English and don't care about marketing that region. You don't, unlike the other regions, get the influx of American money, and American money is what makes esports flow in the West. Unless you want Chinese money in, and quite frankly, I'll say that.
We are all owned by Tencent then. So
one day.
Nah.
Yeah. What about the good news? So in specifically Europe, basically G2, FaZe, and Vitality, were a bit shaky before, but they placed quite well. Are these, is this a fluke or are these like good news for these teams?
Let's see what some of you think. What do you think, Emanuel? What do you think of some of those teams? Would you say who do you think's legit? Who's maybe more skeptical about?
I think Vitality is kind of a fluke, to be honest. I thought the Shocks was going to be IGLing because the normal the normal ways. But when I heard that Apex is IGLing, I just like I know from before that he was IGLing in the super team on like Cash or something at
Mirage,
one time.
Yeah.
Mirage, oh yeah. But I have never seen him as an IGL, and it looked like they just had executes and then ran into sites basically. From what I saw.
Yeah, the problem is, mate, unfortunately, he's, where I always say I understand why NBK thought he could be an IGL, because he's so smart about the game. You'd think that it would just make sense, but actually it's like he's smart in a different way than an IGL.
Yeah.
Apex makes no sense, man. That makes no sense whatsoever to me. That
it's
he's an
the
IGL
entry fragger playing IGL. I mean,
like he's just not a thinker about the game in that way. Like put it this way, Apex is one of the few players I'm very careful about if I banter, because if people don't know, unless people have been massive arseholes to me, I don't banter people who can't take banter. And I noticed when I would talk to him and banter him at events, Like, sometimes he would just take it literally and he could see it hurt his feelings. I was like, I'm only fucking kidding, mate. I'm only roasting you. Like, I don't really think you shit or whatever. Like, he would just be, he's almost got like a childlike innocence about him. That's why he's a cool guy. But as a result, I don't really know why he's the IGL. I mean, I think it's just that he knows there's problems in the team and he wanted to give it a chance.
Oh, certainly.
And they haven't got any other options at this point in time, have they? Let's freaking face it. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Vitality one was a mixture of a fluke. I think a lot of teams were playing like shit in that tournament. And then I'll also add in, I mean, Ziwu looks like he's got his game back. It looks like he's got his head back together now.
Yeah. I feel like because RPK stepped up during this tournament more, Ziwu got more room to do stuff.
Would make sense, yeah.
So
that's obviously something you can't really rely on, is it? Like,
yeah, exactly.
That old fucking RPK, he must be like 33 or something. He's really old, isn't he?
It's so insane. Like, RPK has been up and down for so long.
Sure.
I believe he's as old as me. I think he's 30.
Would make sense. Who were the other two? FaZe and Mousespot. Like, FaZe is the one where, like, I think I described it. I did a tweet today. I don't know if you saw it, where, because last night was the UFC and they had Alexander Overeem fighting it, right? And if you've ever watched the UFC, have you ever watched the UFC and have you ever seen Overeem fight or Emanuel?
Oh, he either knocks someone out or he gets knocked out after he's gassed.
Basically, the problem is he's got enormous muscles and insane power, and he's a really good, like, technical fighter, although he tends to just fight with power. And so the problem is, if he lands on you, he's knocked a billion motherfuckers out. But the problem is, because he's also fought a long time and because of his style, he is like, my joke is he's like a glass cannon orb.
He is.
Like, either I'm going to shoot you or I'm just going to die and it's going to be easy. So the amount of times he's winning a fight and the other guy just clips him out of nowhere with like a wild punch.
And he gets rocked so hard he just...
And Overeem's just done. He's over it. That's FaZe Clan for you right there.
Yeah.
Because when everything's going, like, Nico's always going to play well anyway, but when he gets like 1.5 other people help him, look like they should be like winning events. But tell you what, the second they hit a bad stretch on a map, they don't have that shit that Astralis has where it's like, right, no one's having a good game. We're going to switch up our style. We're going to... There's none of that. It's just like... I mean, they really are just like cavemen, aren't they? Just like, shoot him in the head. It's like, I cannot. It's like, do it in the head. Like, you just can't win. So, unfortunately, they're so underwhelming when they lose. Like, I don't believe that team will win a tournament this year, put it that way. Think about the only tournaments they won last year were those stupid-ass Blast tournaments.
Yeah.
The old BO1 Blast.
At current time, right, I actually see G2 winning a tournament before anybody else does.
Oh, of course, they could do it.
Because how good is Kenny currently? Holy shit. He's back.
Yeah, agreed. The good thing about G2 is, like, here's the difference. FaZe is hot and cold in the same fucking tournament. That's why they can't win.
That's true.
G2 either has a flaming hot tournament or a dog shit tournament. I would way rather have a team like that. That actually reminds me to some degree of the G2 Super team. Like, that's what it was like. They were either going to win the tournament or they weren't even going to make the playoffs.
That's true.
That's why the weird thing about that is everyone thought, right, what's going to happen when you bring in Nexer and Hunter? Like, you're going to have to evolve the team. Like, all you change is speaking English. Like, they still play like a fucking French team. They play like a happy team.
Yeah. Except they just upgraded a happy skill.
Of course, yeah. Oh, there was another guy, by the way, who was completely delusional. Like, you have to understand, this motherfucker in the depths of Envy being complete shit was still arguing with me privately, trying to tell me, like, it's going to fucking go to whatever. Like, all right, mate. see how that worked out for you.
Until the very end, he thought his style still made sense of, like, the 4-man death ball work style.
His logic was that people just weren't executing it properly. He didn't get it that, like, everyone had sort of, like, figured out specifically how he did it. Like, he was the one who needed to update it. But because this is the problem. It kind of ties back into the thing before. Because if he'd have listened to everyone in the first place, you'd never do that style because it should be really risky. He never would have won his majors. So when he wins them, that sets him in, like, that establishes in his mind, when the world is against me, I am right. So the problem is he then did that like 5 times afterwards. Sadly. Yeah. I actually do wish that guy was in the scene, but only if he's going to be good and obviously get his shit together, you know.
Wasn't he more of a tactical in-game leader before as well?
Yeah, kind of more of a hybrid before. Because the key thing was he kind of initially understood, this is what he didn't get later on, is you fit it to not only your personnel, like you can't run a FaZe Clan style team if you've got fucking like Vitalities players.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also then have to like update your formula, otherwise it's too predictable. So when he had people like Maniac and fucking Uzi. Yeah, unsurprisingly, he wasn't playing like a death ball style where they were going back. Yeah, they were doing proper tactics and stuff. When he got all the sick players, though, yeah, then he adapted it that way. So to me, I think some of that was also that they were in denial that some of those players fell off in that team.
Yeah.
And never really recovered, you know?
I mean, he was still running that system when he had the retired, non-retired XMS.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which
and by the way, that's also a crime because he ruined that player.
Yeah.
That guy was really promising. Yeah. He just ruined him because he just made like, that's also the other thing. All you need to know is that in the same way as Nip famously used to just take someone in who looks promising as the fifth, and then by the time they leave, they look like they've aged fucking 15 years like the American presidents, and they look like, right, he's probably suicidal now. Like they, in the same way as they would just ruin their fifth player, the guys from fucking Envy would just take whoever the entry was and decide, right, nothing's changed in entry fragging over the years, mate. You're just the hard entry. Like, come here, you're going to run in first. And this, like, the whole point of that is if you win, yeah, I'll take that. Okay, it's my job. If you're losing, that's like your drill sergeant literally telling you, run through this wall. You run into it, smash your nose and break your nose. He goes, run through it again.
Yeah.
After the 10th time, you're just going to be like, this is fucking garbage. Like, even if I do it, I don't enjoy this. Like, you've just destroyed my whole personality. So he did it with Apex, did it with the XMS guy. Like, I don't think he got the toil that, like, he was putting these guys through. Like, they couldn't handle it. Like, you're going to burn them out if you do that.
I also feel like XMS was the wrong player to do it with. There were definitely better players. Like he
also didn't seem like a very confident guy, to be fair.
Yeah, I think he was more like of a Shroud type of player. Just like second, third in, something like that.
Well, currently, like in Heretics, he seems to be doing fine.
Yeah, but is he playing the entry role?
Vaguely interesting team, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yes, it is vaguely interesting. Also, I would like to see how like the Nivera, the brother of Scream, will he outgrow his brother or not?
Do you mean in age?
No, in like skill. Because if we look at like 2014-ish Scream, that skill was amazing.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, people don't realize that guy wasn't a meme. He only became a meme years later, if anything, because he did it for marketing and sell all those fucking mice. Like, I even told him at the time when he made that mouse, like, what a genius move, mate. You're exactly the perfect player to make the mouse, because obviously the trailer's going to be sick, isn't it? Like, you have to understand, that's a good example of where HLTV and Reddit is made of, like, fucking complete half-wits. When that first trailer came out for that, like, Final Mouse or whatever.
Oh, that was great.
They were all like, these are all clips I've seen. It's like, guess what? The 100 people who reply to Reddit threads isn't who he's trying to sell it to, you dumb fuck. He's trying to sell it to some guy in India who's like, Scream, oh my God. And then he sees that, like, oh, it's the best game in the world. And doesn't know that those are, like, clips from 3 years earlier. He's like, this mouse can make me do that? It's like, well, it can't, but, you know, if you pay $20 or whatever, you can have one. That was actually genius marketing. No, I agree. Like, when the game was a bit simpler and it wasn't, you couldn't just shut him down. Yeah, that guy was a monster. He had bonkers aim.
Like, even if he streamed, like, you could see in his warm-ups, like, holy shit.
You can still see in his streams, like, he has, like, the mechanics still, but it's not the same anymore. Still,
I mean, I've seen when he plays Valorant, his aim is fucking bonkers as well, mate.
There's also
Valorant yet.
The hitboxes are also a bit different.
Oh, right.
Valorant.
They're much bigger, much too big.
You should be loving it then.
Yeah.
You can tap him in the head all the time, right? You know what? I can't lie. I haven't played it yet.
I haven't installed it. I'm scared of that goddamn thing, like the anti-cheat, like just looking at all my fucking data. It's Riot fucking Games. It's owned by Tencent. Fuck these guys.
The only thing is, though, I actually did suspect something like that, because all I'm going to say is, I won't say who, because I might get into political trouble here, boys. But I just saw some people who stream, and I tuned in when they were doing Valorant, and I thought, these people aren't even from Esports, CS and FPS, right? People from League of Legends and stuff, they're not going to be good at this. Some of them were popping headshots as though they were like fucking some sick player now. I was like, what is this shit? That's one thing I'm so suspicious about, because it's a bit like in Call of Duty and fucking Fortnite. You know, some of these games on the console version had like aim assist built into them very subtly. Well, the problem is, before you know that, you think, hey, this is a legit esport. This could be like mine. And then when someone tells you that, you're like, right, I'm out. See you. Like, just like
I know, right?
Table over, don't you? Like,
I still have people up to this day.
That's where I come from, the Black Ops 2 competitive scene.
Right.
basically, long and long ago.
Like, I
Was it
still
like
have
that?
people come up to me and tell me, like, oh, CS is overrated. I'm like, why? You have fucking aim assist in your game to help you, you stupid fucks.
I can tell you a funny story about that, actually. There was, like, one of the world tournaments in Black Ops 2. Complexity had a team at the time there. Where they destroyed everybody, didn't lose a single map.
6-1 and those guys.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and they after the tournament, like a couple of months later, they found out that they had used a setting on the Xbox that made their aim assistance even better.
Just by accident?
No. They had like looked through like the console and stuff and found if you put this setting to high instead of low, you get even better aim assistance.
That's ridiculous.
So they just destroyed everybody, and then when the tournament organizers found that out, they set every console to low, and then they didn't. I don't think they won a tournament again, but they did like the semifinals.
That is depressing. Yeah. That's like where Astralis obviously were the ones who did know that shit in that smoke. Where there was that fucking bug, and they just didn't tell anyone. Like, come on, mate, we knew something was up. I obviously knew they weren't cheating. Like, that's a bit of an allegation to make, but I know why Nico was frustrated. Like, it was clear that they were doing something that like this is what people don't get. The problem with everyone's backlash against Nico is it's just because he can't make a point without sounding like he's a whiny cunt. So when you hear him whine, you go, I'm against this guy no matter what the fuck he's saying. But if you listen to what he's saying, he's nearly always on point. Like when he was whining about that, what he meant was, mate, I might be the best player to ever play this game and I don't know what they're doing. I know all the mechanics of this game. Like what? Do you think Glaive can just go inside a smoke somehow and I can't? Like, why is it working for him and not me? So in some sense, he was wrong to imply he was cheating or something like that, but he was sort of right.
It was
that
just
he must have been doing
badly
something.
worded.
Yeah, like if it would have been a fair battle, Glaive would have had no chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the problem as well. Like, listen, obviously Astralis still could have won most of those tournaments. It's not like it would have been the deciding factor. I think the problem to me was when they were at the height of doing that shit, they were already the most dominant team. It's not like they used to win 16-6 like every map or whatever, is it? Like, that's the problem, is you can't give the best team already an advantage.
It's like, give me more exploits so I get even better and dominate longer.
That's why it's actually a shame in some ways that, like, some of the people, one thing that I think is kind of weird is because so much of CSGO for so many years was more about like the looser end of the equation than playing actual, like just doing basic defaults and just going off the skill of your players, as opposed to real tactics and executes and, calling stuff out and executing it like down to the detailed letter. Because of that, it means that a lot of the people who would have been fucking amazing IGLs never stuck with it or never made it to the right level to get the rep that they needed. So like, I mean, people already saw what God B did with what you look back now was a shit big land. Like, that team had no business being in the final. Well, the real one, you should appreciate this, mate, is the real criminal one is that Threat never wanted to properly play CSGO. Because if you don't know, he played briefly in like the first year or so. But the problem is he already, because at the time CSGO didn't make that much money, he already wanted to go, and he did do this, and go and study in Japan. Yeah. And he wanted like a different lifestyle experience. Well, if people don't know, in 1.6, he was the best tactical in-game leader from Sweden. It wasn't fucking Pronax. Pronax was maybe in the middle. Khan was more like a Kerrigan, like, face type thing. Yeah. So was fucking Roban. So was Valle. They were all about, like, stack it with skill and play that way. Like, Threat was the thinker. He was the one that would take the lesser players and then potentially have a chance to upset those guys without those talents. And he would always get his best players stolen. Then he'd have to find the next guy. So as you've seen, when he used to literally be able to shot call in NIP that year when you could actually talk. Yeah. Dude, they literally got like twice as good. They were completely done before they got him. Then you look now, as you might see in that documentary that we did for Blast. It's a pretty good one, actually, about the new NIP lineup. We recorded that before the new NIP lineup with Nork had ever played a game. Now listen to what we're saying in that. Like, this could be a really good team. It could be better than the last NIP. Like, Threat's going to mold these guys. They're totally malleable. This guy has a really sick mind for the game. And as a result, he'd come up with new boosts, fucking smokes, flashes,
new nades, new mollies. These are the people I want, because
then you'd have the actual competition to Glaive. Whereas at the moment, most of the people Glaive are playing are almost like the ideal opponent for them.
Yeah.
It's too simple for him to like get on their like easy side. Just outthink them for him, at least.
Yeah. That's why Existence should coach.
That would also be a fun one, right?
That would be a monstrous move for a certain team, but hey.
Like G2 with Existence as a coach?
Doesn't have to be G2 if it like if he gets Vitality.
Any team basically.
No, if he gets Vitality as a coach, I'd love to see that one happen.
That would be interesting too. I mean, they're all players he's worked with.
That's a skill lineup fully. Like,
since Existence set up the team with Kanyas, where he basically had a hard carry, and if
if he could do that with Zywoo,
exactly. And even now with Kanyas popping off, like any of those teams would be insane, I think. And even like someone like FaZe would benefit from that, I think, because I don't see what Janko does except for maybe. I think he's
underrated too much.
He's probably better at handling the group, but from like his analysis stuff, he seems really, really tactical.
Well, that's the problem. Is basically, the reason we'll never be able to actually judge Janko as a coach, as bizarre as it sounds, is he picked the two hardest, picked the two most uncoachable teams in the world. So if you go to MIBR, I'm not joking, all the anecdotes that are like the private anecdotes just involve them all just sort of telling him to go fuck himself. Not literally, but like in a banter way, like, and just not doing the shit he wants. Then he goes to FaZe Clan, already the opposite style to how he in theory would want to play the game. It's just he understands that if Nico does that shit with a Force by Deagle, that makes sense. Doesn't always make sense when the others do it. So my problem with that is, I think, unfortunately, the fact that he's not Brazilian meant he never had a chance with MIBR. And then also, the part everyone forgets what that lineup is, it's not like he can't make a lineup with foreign players and Brazilians, but you don't put two brain-dead NA players in there, just fucking rush. Like, at least give me something to work with. Like, you put fucking Elysian in that team and Twist in that team, they'd bang out of control. What are you talking about? Like, that would be amazing. So I think that was just the wrong players. Yeah. And then in FaZe Clan, he's just too blinded by Nico, unfortunately, in my opinion. Like, those two, that's the whole reason he's in the team, isn't he? Him and Nico are best buds. And then Nico's best buds are called Zero and wants to play with him. So you're already taking 3 out of the 6 people we need to work together. And they've already sort of got insane cognitive dissonance and blind spots for each other. And so as a result, what are you going to do? Right, let's fuck around with Rain and Olaf's roles again, right? And this Brocky guy, right? You're literally nobody, so just do everything we say. Like, the problem is you're not getting to do stuff, because you're right. Listen, that guy can be very technical. Like, actually, the funny thing is, he could coach like an Astralis or a North or something like that. It's just, for whatever reason, he hasn't chosen to. I mean, part of it is, the main reason he went into coaching was he was really burned out from doing too many events. Because he was in the era when not only was the event, every event was 6 or 5 days long. But that was back when you didn't even get breaks for some of them, mate. Like, breaks only started to be a thing on his last year, I think. So I myself experienced this.
Wasn't this the event era of like, you go to an event ends, and like half a day later you're packing for the next one?
If you did it full time like they did, yeah. Like, that's what people don't know. I used to, every year of my career, I've said no to probably like 5 or 6 lands, some of them big ones, just because I'm not going to burn myself out. Like, I won't be able to, I like doing events, and I have that hat that I can put on, but I don't want to wear that hat every day. I want to do journalism some days. I want to do talk shows some days. I want to do League of Legends some days. So if I was just burned to a crisp from doing every event, I mean, it also wouldn't make that much financial sense, but you'd still make very good money. But the difference is you make very good money and you give up your entire life, basically. Like, what do you even spend that on then? You're not even at home. You're just spending it on fucking filet mignon in the hotel room, aren't you?
Exactly.
Which is not where you want to eat filet mignon, unfortunately.
No,
but I'm with you. I also think there's another thing, unfortunately, they should try, is I think FaZe Clan should also try a different coach. Like, in my opinion, what they should do is bring in a coach and an IGL. So, like, for example, I would obviously go with, like, I'm never going to go full tactics in that team, because I think some of those players just don't want to play like that. But let's go a bit more in the middle. So I'd maybe get someone who can do a bit of both and then get a different coach.
Do you think Golden would be a good IGL?
Would be an interesting move. The only thing I could see with him is, like, I think the style, I can see where you're going from that. I think that would work. The only problem is, I think the only reason he was the good fit for Fnatic is Fnatic themselves were dropping off a cliff, so they were themselves.
They were
trying,
desperate.
Like,
just anything.
Yeah, exactly. They will listen to this guy now. If Golden walks into that fucking FaZe Clan, he's going to get his fucking lunchbox taken and he's going to be shoved in a locker, isn't he? Like, by everyone. Even Rocky probably fucking wedgies by the end of the day or whatever, wouldn't he? Because, shit rolls downhill. So that's the only downside is, that's also the reason why FaZe is the most uncoachable team. Yeah. Who the fuck can rein Nico in? Even his best friend can't necessarily.
That one event where Janko played as a stand-in?
Yeah.
If he would have continued as a player, but been a really low fragging in-game leader, and then they would have got someone else as a coach, because they
that might
obviously
not be a terrible idea.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have such like good fraggers, obviously.
Dude, people won't know this, and like, listen, I don't. If you haven't noticed, the whole reason, if famously I played on stream a whole bunch of times with Vince and Anders, even though I look shit as a result, is I don't give a fuck if people think I'm good or not. I genuinely don't care. If they think I'm really terrible, guess what? That guy hated me anyway. Like, I could have literally been in Global Elite and go, you were carried there anyway. So, like, I lose nothing even if I was in fucking silver, which I've obviously never been, but, if I had. So, what's hilarious is, one time, it was actually like the first day I'd played in maybe like a year and a half. I played it when Anders started streaming, basically. And it was the game where the first map we played, we lost like 16-14. And then the game gave me Gold Nova 2 rank on stream. So the haters have all screenshotted that, and they all try to claim that like my real level is Gold Nova 2 or whatever. And the whole thing is, right, this is where people don't understand real confidence.
Drop off period,
I don't need to argue that because it's not true. So why would I argue it? You would look insecure, energy. Like, yeah, if you were to go, no, I'm really good. It's like, who gives a fuck, mate? I'm not building my whole brand on being good at Counter-Strike. So here's the thing anyway. That was just the first game. We then just kept playing for 4, 5, 6 maps in a row. And so what happens is, because, like, listen, mate, I've never ever played CS on stream or in theory in front of the camera except for one game at a CPL like 15 years ago. So as a result, listen, plenty of people were curious about that. That's why I did it, to basically give Anders a pop on his stream so he'd get some nice viewers when he started up again. Because at the time he wasn't doing as many events. He had some disputes with some of the TOs. So because everyone heard, like, holy shit, Thorin's playing there. And everyone's going, oh, let's see how good he is then. And coming and watching, right? And because obviously on Face It, you can just observe, can't you? Right? Yanko comes home, and I think he'd even been like drinking or something, he'd been out or something. And he goes like, oh shit, Donker's playing. So he jumps in the game, right? And there's a game, you can find it on YouTube, where we play on cash. And I'm not joking. I've played with some of the greatest players ever, mate. Like, you wouldn't believe how many great players know a lot of like they could play versus bad players, and they can, they can like outthink other people, but they're not, like, put it this way, Yanko's smarter and knows more about the game than a lot of the pros. Well, when he was playing the game, dude, it's mental, because since he, like, unfortunately, he's got the downside that Henry and Sponge and all those have, which is they can't play for fun. When they play, it becomes the CPL again. Yeah. And they're getting mad at you for making mistakes, and you have to fucking perfectly peak everything, and you can't have fun, basically. Yeah. So it's not fun to play with them. But in that game, right, because he was so desperate to win this game, he just not only starts shot calling, he starts backseat driving, but the reason we let him do it and no one complains is because he's literally like a fucking Jedi and he knows everything. Like, he's telling you in like 1v1s, like, right, throw the smoke to your right, you're going to push to your left, not net, do it now. And when you do it, like, the guy's there and you're just behind him. You're like, what? And listen, I've played the game a long time. I usually have a good sense for where people are in the game, but like, he was on like wall hack levels. He was fucking unreal. So, as mad as it sounds, mate, if you give him time to level his game up and make him just a normal low fragging IGL, that might even be the move.
Like, if he just gets back to the level where he like got with the what was that team called again?
iNation.
Yeah, iNation. Like, those people were like the best in their country at the time, right? Or roughly-ish. And like, that's a nobody's country, guys. Like, you have to think about that. And they got to like what? They got really goddamn good. They got really high up in the rankings at that point in time. Like, that just shows you how much of a brain like he has and how he can think.
Yeah,
the downside to that region though is cause listen, they don't have that many players that are great. I mean, now they've got a couple more, but at the time they had one, obviously. And obviously they were mad insecure, right? So like every fucking region that has one good player, Fox, who said something about Fox anyway? But, like, people just go way too deep and get way too invested in that one player and start living their whole life vicariously through him. So in the same way as I used to banter Brazilian fans, like, I don't know why you're talking shit about MIBR beating the team I like. Like, they're the only good team from Brazil. So if anything, they're the exception. You're all shit. They're just good. I used to have the same joke basically about Nico. It's like, mate, everyone who comes from fucking Serbia works for HLTV.org. It's about half their staff, which tells you about how much they pay and where they recruit from, by the way. Everyone from Serbia acts like they're his fucking brother who taught him how to play when he was a boy. It's like, mate, he's super sick. You're more like fucking Emi or Letny if we're talking about Serbian players here, mate. Like, you can calm the fuck down. Like, why are you talking shit for that?
Foreign. MIBR isn't even the best Brazilian team currently. Fury is.
Not at the moment, sadly. That's even true. That's what's mad. Fury is actually legit. Like, dude, there's another thing people don't know. Listen, as people might guess, I essentially, even by Astralis, we were somewhat promised that they were going to be in Flashpoint. And then as a result, a couple of other teams, when Astralis was in, were going to join as well. Right? So I never knew, thought I was going to get all the teams. I just thought, give me a couple of those teams and I'll wreck EPL because we'll have a way better tone. So when we thought these teams were going to be in, one of them that we thought might join was maybe Furia wants to join. Like, listen, they've got the players now, they've got that sponsorship, maybe they can get... Because remember, the key thing about joining any franchise league is you don't have to have the money now. You can go to your investors and say, I've had an invitation to join Overwatch League. If you give me $30 million, this is what we'll get for it. And it's worth, like, that's what you do. So as a result, if Furia could, in theory, have been in Flashpoint. And I remember even saying, like, dude, I'll take them. Like, they're a fucking super entertaining team.
Yeah.
They've got all these interesting elements to them. If we have them and MIBR, we've got a fun little rivalry. That would have been fire.
It's also very interesting to look at Furia with Henny as a player.
Sure.
Like compared to, was it Abel J who got kicked?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, the guy everyone blamed anyways, got kicked, and then they brought in a super streaky Opper, which basically, like, the other players were fine, I think, and then they just sometimes they have a even better performance.
Yes.
Imagine,
very interesting.
Imagine if you did get them, because that way you would be getting like the Brazilian viewers in as well.
Oh, we'd have insane viewership. People don't know this. Like, to this day, one of the only teams I'm not mad about having not upgraded in Flashpoint, because by the way, I'm going fucking ham behind the scenes. Like, I'm not joking. I won't be in the project in the future if they don't get enough good teams. Like, you have to have a few, otherwise I have no tools to work with. So I'm not just going to do this for money and because, haha, this is cool. Like, I don't even need to do events if I don't want to. So I'm in it to win. I'm in it to be the best league. And crucially, to save fucking Counter-Strike, because at the level of spending right now, either it will succeed and ESL makes all the money, or the teams will just go bust, or lose, or we'll have to drop down to like 5 years ago, and none of those options are good.
Please
so
not go back in time.
So the key thing is, like, I lost my track of thought there. Where were we going? Oh, that's right, the MIBR. So the key thing is, like, even though MIBR's team is not that good, and I know they did well in Flashpoint, but they're not that good, obviously. Dude, they bring the viewership of like the biggest teams in the world. It's not a joke. If they're just playing, that was when we were sometimes beating EPL. Even though, you know, it'd be like MIBR versus, I don't know, fucking August or some shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Brazilian fan base, my friend.
Yeah, of course.
Basically,
remember,
the nip effect.
Even though, in theory, yeah, like a fan from Brazil isn't worth anything compared to a fan from America. Anytime you can just show that number, you can still sell someone on that. That's still worth something to someone, mate. Still looks sick that you have that. Because if anything, you pivot, don't you? Look at the numbers I had when I had the small tier 2 teams. Imagine when I get the tier 1 team. That's the angle you'd go with, isn't it?
This is what Overwatch did.
Sure.
They sell numbers. That's it. You can pivot that point fairly sure.
That's why I always say, I mean, I'm very careful how I say it because I don't particularly want to go into some sort of a fucking lawsuit, but how much further does Overwatch League have to go before someone starts to wonder, what exactly is a Ponzi scheme? Just saying.
Sorry.
How much was that? $30 million a piece?
Oh, the maddest thing people forget is because it was about selling the dream, not the reality. It's one thing that for season 1, listen, when no one had done it before, maybe you thought it'd work. The idea that they put the price up for season 2 and people still joined is like, I can't believe this. Like, you're actually blowing my mind, guys. Like, at least just say you're only going to pay what the other guy did. But no, enough people were willing to bid up that they were willing to pay 30 million, etc. for slots. Fucking hell.
Wasn't it also a new game at the time?
Yeah.
Vaguely. It'd been out for like a year and a half or so.
Yeah. But I feel like it hadn't like nearly built enough of an audience to actually support that kind of money.
Put it this way, that's the reason why Riot's letting Valorant just ride and they're not saying there's going to be LCS, because they don't want to make the same thing, because, I mean, it just destroy all their credibility. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to see is it going to be like Apex Legends, like all the streamers play it for a few months and then just drops off. Yeah. If that happens, then Riot will just let the ESLs of the world carry the can and they can organise the tournament. If it actually gets mad numbers, like if Korea and China get involved, now maybe they could do a massive LCS type thing, and now maybe that is the ultimate franchise league. I don't think so personally, but it is. But you know, that's what they're planning for. Obviously, if things go well.
And Apex Legends wouldn't have popped off if they didn't buy like a lot of the big streamers, because they did pay them a lot of cash.
Sure.
Trust me.
Although the funny thing I'll say is, like, I'm not a huge fan because I just don't play shit like battle royals anyway, mate. Like, you have to understand, for fun, I don't play much games anyway now, but I would play like Quake World again. I would just go and play with some fucking Finnish guys.
Yeah,
who've been playing the game for 17 years.
The only real battle royale is Quake to me.
But the thing is, I have been told by people who do like most of those battle royales that they actually think Apex Legends is the best one because it has the whole class-based system and stuff.
Class bases suck because no, seriously, legit. Like, why would you make a class one? Because it gives differentiation. If everyone starts from a zero perspective, like in Quake, you all have the same abilities and skills to your disposal. Just how good are you at utilizing them? Yeah. Guess what? That's where you find the real people on top.
Yeah, but that's the problem though, mate, is like the thing people still haven't learned. Like, esports is just a copycat industry. I mean, most industries are, you actually find out. So one of the areas that it's copycat is they just take something that worked for someone else and they don't understand why and they apply it. So their logic to this day is, look, jerkies, no one wants to play games like that. They're old. People want to play games like League of Legends and Dota where you have different characters. So it's like, yeah, they do if they're MOBAs. Like, who says you want to play FPS games that have different classes?
Exactly.
If that was true, Team Fortress would have been fucking the game, not CS. Think about it. That game always existed.
So true.
Overwatch would be the shit, right? Overwatch would be the number one game right now. It combines the cartooniness of League of Legends. Like this, I'm sure this was even the fucking elevator pitch. It'll be like the family-friendly elements of League of Legends, but with an FPS core to get all the hardcore gamers. It's like, mate, there's no hardcore gamers coming in here except people who are fucking like weekend members of Antifa or something. If you look, that's hardcore. Like, it's almost true. It's almost true.
You went there. Jesus.
Listen, mate, this is not my...
Disney princesses combined
this
with
going on Reddit, mate. You don't have to worry about that. Welcome to the fucking donator discussions. I drop shit on here. I don't drop in any of my videos.
That's
so
good.
We have Antifa on the left side and we have Disney princesses on the right side. Combine.
Let's see who wins. Oh, and they've destroyed all the gender stereotypes. The little girls lose.
I was about to say when you... God damn it.
This is too funny.
Jesus. It's all right, mate. Here's the thing. Listen, you don't have to go into this because obviously there's no point in any scenario publicly. But all I'll say is this: the joke of fake news.
Oh yeah,
is that the people who say fake news are the fake news. That's the joke. It's distraction.
Yeah.
So what they do is they label the people who aren't fake news but who they want to marginalize, and then they say you're fake news in the same way as like. You probably don't know this, but in this drama in League of Legends, where I've done literally nothing wrong, and the other people have done everything wrong, they just constantly accuse me of doing stuff wrong. And then their fans go, well, they have a point, maybe you're doing something wrong. It's like, that's called distraction, you fucking idiot. Like, as the magician's pulling his hand up to the left, he was just taking the bird out of his pocket, you arsehole. It wasn't actually inside that glass bottle, you know. But the point is, like, in the same way as I say fake news exists like that, the stereotypes that modern media has created about each country are all fake. I'm not going to go too deep on this, but here's the quick version, right? If you read online, you would believe that only the stupidest people in the world who live in the UK were in favour of Brexit, right?
Yeah.
If you actually go to normal cities in the UK, you'll get a very different experience of it. You'll never see it on the media, though. Because that's all for people from London who are reading newspaper. In the same way in America, only racists vote for Donald Trump, right? No, that is the distraction. You go and you meet normal people. It's only the arseholes who read like fucking the New Yorker who are like, I would never do that. So in the same way, right? I know this, but people don't. Everyone thinks that Sweden is the most cocked country of all time, right? They all think, oh, look, it's a fucking joke. Like, and they all think as a result, though, mate, that you guys love it. Whereas I have to say, almost every Swede I knew who was a gamer, they know that that's just fucking bullshit media hype. Like, normal people are mad reasonable in Sweden, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Even you guys look at it like, what the fuck is going on with some of this stuff?
Like,
yeah.
When I see Americans talk about Sweden, like referencing it's like nothing is like what they're saying.
It's when they think that it's when the left-wing people really think that Sweden's like the USSR that worked. It's like, what are you talking about? It's nothing like that. Like, it isn't even, that's not even a dream over there.
I get to keep most of my money.
Yeah, if it was a capitalist, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Wasn't the best part? Wasn't the best part like when Trump got like applauded by people who didn't wear a fucking mask and were like standing right next to each other and in front of each other? It's like, great. This pandemic's really turning out to be good.
True. Is there any more CS or esports related topics? Who's going on?
Let's see.
Let me check my list.
One of the teams that has been around for a while is OG. How do you find it? Because I mean, they did okay in some tournaments, but for the level of investment, I don't know the level.
I think they underperformed.
They got. Where do they go now?
Right. First of all, just because again, this is the sort of shit. I would basically hint at some of this on by the numbers, but again, I wouldn't outright say it. I mean, the reason OG took forever to put together is they don't have loads of investment and they were not spending big for those players. They were literally trying to fucking nickel and dime to get those players. Even though, like, in the case of Valde, that's like one of the most valuable contracts in Europe. Like, why the fuck would I give you that player? And so they were dumb enough to really think, like, but he wants to join my team. So, yeah, all right, well, you might want my wife. Doesn't mean I'm going to fucking give you her, does he, you dumb fuck? Like in that scenario, like, what's ridiculous is, it's a team that has some big names, but put it this way, it's not a coincidence that the last two to join the team were fucking Issa and Mantu. And before that, they were trying to get fucking Poison and Jampy. Like, they obviously spent all the money on NBK, Valde, and Alexi B because they were the buyouts, right?
Yeah.
Then the last two was literally like, who else can pick up a mouse? Like, and you were just trying to get the person who was the best gamble. And by the way, how sick is that? Imagine they'd really gotten like Poison or gotten Yampy. Like they scouted well. I'll give credit to MBK. He knows what the fuck he's doing.
That's true.
So he actually ended up, unfortunately, with a worse team than he could have had. Like I actually think some of them have turned out pretty good, but I'm sort of with you. Like, I feel like I've sort of seen it all from this team now. Like I do think because Alexi B, I've heard his comments, he is a legit IGL. He could probably do more on LAN. Like he would get more of an edge over some of the other teams there. But this team to me smacks of like, good tournaments mean I am now 9th placed. Oh, I had a couple of bad tournaments. Now I'm 13th placed. Just yo-yoing between that. Basically, think of when the Renegades guys used to be called Renegades, when they actually didn't have like the newer players. And they had Jacob and, like, fucking the old guys, basically. Yeah. And they were, they'd make top 8 in the tournament and they'd do well in the match they lost, but they weren't going to win the tournament. But at the same time, it was still fun to watch.
Then again, on the other perspective, you still have...
Oh. You muted
out. What did you say?
Or when contracts expire, you can still re-sign your current players and then upgrade.
Yeah, there's the thing. Just don't think of it as a lineup that has to be set in stone. Like if they, I don't know where they are in the whole economic
around 15, I guess.
I don't know if they've got the money at the moment because I don't know what's going on in the world. It's all, the problem at the moment is it's not as simple as how much money did a team have. It's who specifically backed them. And then what you need to know is, like, if the person who backed them was also a fucking guy whose entire business is restaurants, well, guess what? He's fucked right now. Mm-hmm. But if he's a guy who just, like, I don't know, fucking parcels or something, he's obviously killing it. So if you know who specifically people's backers are, hence one of the reasons why I'm talking buku shit about the old Astralis, then you know that they're in trouble. So if they have the money, you could easily get 2 other players. No, it wouldn't be to replace the Mantu guy at this point in time. It actually looks pretty good. But listen, I'm not hating on Issa, but this ain't the team for you, mate. You can go play in another team.
He looked good in Hellraisers.
Yeah, but times.
But that's the thing. Like, he worked in Hellraisers because the way they set him up.
Yeah. He's not being set up now, I think.
No, exactly. So that is his role.
Yeah, exactly. A quick question. Since Astralis has got a 7-man roster, is that going to change the game in any way? Are tournaments going to allow substitute mid-game, mid-tournament, mid-map?
Oh, how lucky! Blastralis just said they would, so no conflict of interest there, right?
I think it's almost certain no one else will.
No.
Although I have to say, if you know the way that Nicola Nyholm operates, he's the sort of fucker that might just be like, I'll find a way out of EPL into Flashpoint unless you do ESL. And they'll be like, God, right, let's find a way to mindfuck ourselves at this somehow competitive integrity and let's do it. So, and then Carmack will be like, it's a historic day for ESLs. We announced a new format no one's tried before where Astralis just wins the the 7-man lineup has to be like, they'll just do some fuck dang like that. So I don't think that'll really happen. I'm kind of joking on that, but it's the sort of, wheelhouse that he operates in.
Yeah.
So my big problem with that is, it's like I said on By the Numbers, if you can think of any conspiracy theory that involves them picking up those players, not because they really want them, but because they're going to lose a player, someone's going to retire, they're going to sell some of the players, they're going to try and have 2 teams, one in Flashpoint, one in the other. If you can think of any conspiracy theory, it's more likely, in my opinion, than they really wanted those players and they want a 7-man lineup. I just don't believe it. Because here's the thing, why would you go to 7? You'd go to 6, wouldn't you, and integrate the guy? You wouldn't go to fucking 7. That's what's so suspicious about it. And then the seventh guy, you literally had to like fucking use a Ouija board to contact him.
Which one?
Fucking Yugi, the joke is dead.
Yeah.
You know, like, no one, mate, who gets kicked? Like, I know when I say who gets kicked from North, everyone's going to make us get kicked for attitude reasons. No one gets kicked from North in 2020 or 2019 and then gets picked up by Astralis. That doesn't work. That doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. That was I mean, as Richard even said, there might even be a logic, as he implied. In fact, here's the conspiracy angle that makes the most sense. Are you ready? So we know as a fact, because it was announced, that Astralis Group had to, as in the company, all had to take voluntary 30% salary cut because of the economic crisis, right? Which suggests you don't have much money, right? But Nicola and Ihom, like a lot of some people who are businessmen, they have access to loads. They're in the good old boys club, basically. They know loads of business people who want into esports. And their whole job is think up different projects that guy can invest in. So you know what? At the moment, I've got all the funding for Astralis this time. But you know what? I've got this thing called Godsent I'm making. Would you like to buy into that one? It's got products. You know, he won majors. Like, he's just about selling a dream. That's why I call him a used car salesman. Whatever he sells you, it's going to fucking run out of petrol when it gets on the corner. The engine's going to fall out, isn't it? So, like, think about this. Here's the conspiracy theory for you. Here's what Astralis do. They look around the system and they realise loads of people, buyouts are really high now for even shit players. And especially if the player gets name value, right? But those two players, like, he knew already that the buyout for, there was basically no buyout for Esatag because his contract was ending. Oh, yeah. And then Yugi has no buyout because he's not on a team. So what you've done there is pick players up for free in an economy where everyone's desperate for money. You're now going to play them in Astralis to try and make them look decent, prop them up with 3 or 4 other sick players, and they're probably so good they could still maybe like do a good run with one of those players.
And then you sell them.
Then someone else goes, you know what? Maybe I do want that Yugi guy, and then you sell him.
Yeah.
And now you just made 500k, 400k. Well, if you're desperate for money, that's a fucking sick little plan, actually. That could be a pretty quick turnaround. And if at the same time, let's just imagine a Device or a Dupree who have very good reasons to want to take time off. Maybe they're like, hey, you know what? I'll go along with that plan. That lets me take this one event off that I wanted. Lets me have an extra summer holiday. You know what? Didn't want to play this event in fucking Russia. Yeah, I'll take that one off. That's actually a pretty clever plan to make money.
Yeah.
It's kind of scummy, but, you know, goes without saying, doesn't it?
What did you expect?
Exactly.
Do you think Lev could make any of these players actually good though? Like Yugi was during in Heroic, he looked pretty good. He had very, very fast reactions.
No, his aim could look good, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that consistent overall.
No.
I would certainly be interested to see how Glaive would use him, because, yeah, he's another person where, I mean, who's he fucking put a foot wrong with? Look at all the players he's played with in his career. They're all good. I mean, in a different way to Kerrigan, but, you know, he makes them work in his team is the key thing to me.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons why this is where you know Glaive isn't like a genius on all levels. Because what's weird about him, by the way, is tactically he is a genius. Like, he's an insane mind for the game and always did have. But in terms of like social elements and things with the team, I actually believe Zonic decides all that. Because Glaive actually is almost an idiot in some of those regards. And here's how you know. Right? Everyone now loves to laugh in Kirby's face, right? Because he went to North. And obviously he's never been close to as good ever since, right?
That was a good move at the time.
People forget 2 things. One, Glaive wanted Kirby to resign. They all thought he was re-signing.
Yeah.
That means they wanted the player who we now see. They wanted this guy playing for them in majors. Dude, they wouldn't have, I mean, they might have won a major, but like they wouldn't have ever been dominant again. Secondly, people forget this. His level had already dropped off before he went to North. So that means they already knew this Glaive Kirby back then, and they still wanted to keep him. Because in their mind, remember, if you're a tactical in-game leader, you think, right, there's got to be a way I can make this guy work, or maybe I've got to switch something up, or maybe ask, you know, why don't you switch your role around a little bit? You know, we can basically make this work. Like, there's got to be a solution. Some situations, like the joke is, every scenario has a solution, but the question is, would you go to the lengths it takes to make that solution? As much as everyone loves to say it, roster moves are never the solution. They're the solution like 99% of the time, mate, because they just take out the problem, or one of the main ones, and put in a different player. And then maybe that guy just doesn't have the same problems, and boom, you've solved it overnight, haven't you? So we've seen that is the most common way to do it. People just say that because they don't like the idea of people who they like being caught. Like, you don't know how many cocksucking fucking analysts are just friends with the player that they're saying, I don't think they should cut him personally. He's he can still contribute a lot to the team, and he's still doing. And they just start saying like narratives from 4 years ago. It's like, that's the one thing I don't do. Mate, I flame my own mates. Like, I've said this before, you can go back and check. That ESL Cologne, where Team Liquid went to the final, I predicted against them every single match of the whole tournament. And Hiko was like one of my main friends at the time.
Yeah.
But the point is, I didn't think they would win. Like, I was trying to be real.
No, exactly. The major where SK won.
Yes.
Yeah. That was, I see that as an extreme fluke. Like, Fnatic played extremely bad.
And Simple just went fucking ham on everyone, didn't he? Like, that was when he just literally showed, like, this is what I'm capable of, by the way.
Wasn't that the last tournament he played with them as well, as basically as a stand-in?
Yeah. And it was literally only something like a month and a half later, he was in Na'Vi.
Yeah.
And by the way, if people don't know, this story is real. Because we all used to ask the Na'Vi players all the time, like, would you never get Simple? They would always tell us straight up, we would never get him. He's got a really bad attitude. You know what? I think he's overrated. He just plays selfishly anyway. Then when they started to drop off a cliff and he beat them straight up directly, they were like, this Simple guy seems rather good, doesn't he? It's like, why are CS players like this? Why are you all so biased? You wouldn't believe how much just like personal like and dislike of players decides your career. Like, that's why the maddest one ever is the amount of North American pros who have the skills but will never be in a top team because they talk too much shit.
So many.
Yeah. And so even though they could, listen, mate, they could do it. Like if you saw, I don't know how much of Flashpoint you watched, but there was 2 players in Flashpoint who were actual bangers, mate. Like, they should be in Cloud9 if Cloud9 really wanted NA players and to be good. And that was Dapper, who was in the Bad News Bears. Yeah. His skills were really good, mate. And then the guy Infinite, who obviously was going to be the stand-in for Cloud9 until they found out he was dropping them bombs that you're not allowed to drop nowadays. The problem is, mate, these 2 players were actually fucking good. They were like they look like the talent-wise. They should be in the top teams. The problem is, I assume they've both just fucked things up politically behind the scenes, or they pissed the right person off. And so what happens is, as much as this is stupid, the player who's the top player goes, I mean, since he hasn't been in my team yet, I don't believe he's the best yet. So I'll take a guy who's like 90% as good, who didn't talk shit to me that one time, and say, lol, Team Liquid sucks and chokes. Like you can't get a break with these guys. Like, they don't understand what you're supposed to do, which is you're supposed to just do the right move no matter what. Like, I'll give you a very quick anecdote here, because I've told it many times, but no one knew this before. I found it out because I found it out from StarX. The reason why Ukraine never had an elite team, and then they all of a sudden made Na'Vi in 2010 and were the best team in the world, is because the millionaire fucking oil magnate guy who told them to make the team and was going to give them so much more money than any Ukrainian team had ever had, told StarX, your job is this and only this, to put together the best players that would fit together regardless of politics. And so he made a lineup that never existed before. But before that, they used to just stay in little cliques, and then this guy plays with this guy hates that guy, and so you never make the right teams. You never have a Kenny Esther Shocks in the team. I mean, they didn't hate each other, but you saw it was kind of cliquish and who teams wanted at the time. Yeah. And for some reason, everyone was just in love with Shocks all the time. I used to tell people, like, Kenny is the better player, but listen, mate, you can't tell French people certain things. I don't know if you've noticed the way they play Counter-Strike. They just do the same thing over and over again. Which is why you know that Existence is the genius. It's from Belgium, isn't he? He has to be able to pretend to be German, French, or Dutch, depending on the day and who's invading.
I was gonna say, like, we have three fucking languages, and we are all morons.
Exactly. There you go.
Jesus.
Well, and the other thing is as well, I won't go on a big tangent here. We'll wrap it up in a second, actually. But that's actually one thing people don't know as well. That's why actually Existence is a really unique human being. Because he is like a general in terms of how his like approach is. Like, he's the guy who's like, you're going to do what I say. I've got the whole vision. If you don't know this, right? I mean, Sweden's somewhat like this, but Belgium's one of those countries that has one of the most complicated political systems in the entire world, where like there's never like one party that just wins all the time. No. It's like every single time. Isn't it something mad, Jerky's? Like, everyone gets fucking like 8%, and then you just make like these mad coalitions of like 4 groups or something.
Currently, we have one political group who has 44%. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them, so they all make a coalition of like 6-7%, and it's like, 9 parties. Oh yeah, we finally have a coalition of like 52%. It's like, yeah, nice. It's like,
think about the
fuck you
genius of that.
guys.
What that implies about Belgian people, by the way,
We're
is that
stupid.
They have some mad logic that they will all work together, but in a fucked up way. Because logically, right, in every other country you could do that as well. Like, you know, usually to have a majority, you might only need actually to have like 35% of the vote because it splits among the others. But if the others all teamed up, they would beat you, right? They'd have like 65%. So.
And the problem is, the next day they go, well, I don't like this point of view, so I'm going to vote against you. It's like, this is how you're...
Yeah, of
it's
course.
like, dice, you fucked your own government.
That's the thing.
Like,
from that chaos had to emerge one man, Azor Ahai, who could lead against the army that whatever.
You mean Scream?
I mean, in some ways, mate. In some ways.
I'm going to tell you something. We haven't had a functional government in the past 2 years.
I mean, that seems a lot like Sweden, to be honest.
You know, they
And then-
literally don't have a prime minister. Like, there's
really?
no government. It's an insane situation, right? I mean, maybe they have a prime minister, but it's not stable.
We have a prime
Just
minister
sort of
who
tell
is
you something.
who is
about the way the
disliked
world
by the
works.
people and who most people would consider to be, well, a traitor to our country.
Yeah, but that's what sort of tells you a little secret about the way the world really works, Jerkies. That you actually don't need a government and everything's still, you know, there's still the water still on, the
I know,
electricity's still
right?
on, people
As long
eating
as we
food.
pay our bills.
Almost makes it feel fake, doesn't it? Like it's just a tax scam or something.
It is, because Belgium pays the most taxes in the world.
Really?
Nice.
It's pretty high. It's one of the higher ones.
We're number 1 or number 2 in the world who paying taxes.
Jesus. I thought there would be someone like China, maybe?
Oh, no. We have.
China gives you a discount, mate. Denmark's got to be one of the highest.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's
I even get bills because the government can't pay like for certain funds, and now I have to pay them a second time.
What? Okay.
Nice.
That's a place I'm never moving to.
Just a nice drop on that one.
I mean, I know what he means, though, because put it this way. Like, you know, in other countries, the idea is you pay the income tax and then the government takes everything from that.
Correct.
I believe in the Netherlands, they do send me letters, which when I read them in Dutch, do say, like, hey, you know, we need this much money for all the, like, bins to be taken out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing with all the money I'm paying you for the income tax? Like, what, does that just go in your pocket? Like, what?
Yes, it does.
Paying the politicians.
It does, basically, yeah, that's the joke, isn't it? This video was kindly supported by Alexander Rao, Dean Tanglis, Emanuel Särnbratt, JDubs, NateDOhDoubleG, the Puyallup Tribe, Tobias Bernasconi, Xinged, and a special thanks always goes out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my shows? Maybe ask a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers? Who are the guests on my next content? Maybe you want to take part in one of those donated discussions with me where we go really deep into the weeds. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today in the description box link below.